Oh, hey,
Okay.
Matt,
Yeah.
I have host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, I'll make you a host.
That happened on the Kiwanis call too. I wonder if that's the new Zoom upgrade.
Okay. So you're recording and you're streaming. You're ready to go.
All right. Season, as always, we reviewed our goals and our mission statement and wanted that to be the focus of the work we were doing. As you can see, we want our goals to be followed, and they are for our students to graduate college and career ready.
Jim, you're not sharing the screen.
Oh, I apologize.
There you go.
There we go. Sorry about that. All right. So we had our budget presentation slide, number 1. Our goals and our mission statement, as I started to say, for our students to productively engage in their school community, for our staff to embrace a data-driven culture, and of course, our mission statement, which is located on the banner in our logo, of meeting the needs of and creating opportunities for every student every day. So we began this budget process, taking a look at the state aid, as always, a huge source of revenue for the district. And there's 2 categories, namely the foundation aid and the expense-based aid. So if you look at our foundation aid for this coming year, the 2020-2021 year, the foundation aid is going to stay current at the current level of the 1920 school year. So that's going to, for us, represent approximately a $217,000 decrease from what was originally proposed by the governor. So our state aid for foundation aid for next year will be the same as it is for this year, which is $217,000 less than we anticipated based off the governor's run when it was originally done. We also have a second category of aid. Those are the expense-based aids and transportation aid in particular. In our case, as you could imagine, with the cancellation of classes, we're not running our buses as much. And if we're not running them as much and spending as much, then we're not expecting an aid number that's going to be as significant as we once thought. So we're projecting a decrease there of $150,000. So all total, the impact of the pandemic of COVID-19 is an aid reduction. And again, that's from the governor's proposed budget to the final budget adopted by the legislature of about $370,000. So we came in looking to cut about $500,000, got ourselves there, and then we had this aid reduction because of the pandemic and needed to go back and cut a significant amount of more money. Looking through some of the numbers, TRS is our teachers retirement system contribution rate. That rate for us, as well as districts throughout the state, went up about 0.67%. And for Averill Park, in real dollars, that's an impact of $280,000. So that's an increase in our expenses before, we do anything else. We also saw a health insurance increase of about 3.2%, representing over $300,000 in real expenses. So you combine those and you're at about $600,000 increased expenses before we even get started. And as we've talked about with that health insurance number, it's actually, more of an increase in many ways because we've really tried to tighten some things. So there's that number is significant. We're really stretching there. Our tax cap this year is 2.58%. And once again, the district is going out to the taxpayers at that number. We're not exceeding it. The 2.58% represents an increase of $816,802. That is a revenue increase. Looking at our budget, it's an increase of 2.2% from year to year, which brings our total budget to just under $61 million for this upcoming 2020-21 school year. Something we've talked about and something that we are quite proud of, quite honestly, is we know that wine and skill students have many different options, right, between us and our neighboring districts. And we're seeing an increase this year. If you look at the exiting number of seniors compared to the incoming number of freshmen for next year, an increase of about 12 students, which is great because we really think that is positive for our high school and for our district. And we took that as a vote of confidence in the work that we're doing. But also from a budgetary point of view, you see an increase in revenue of $100,000. So there was a significant financial impact to that too. And that's, it's obviously real money. So we were happy about it on that end as well. Like we've done for the 3 years, we've tried to use these guiding principles as we develop the budget. We want it to be the financial representation of our academic program. We really want to make sure our goals are driving how we utilize our very limited resources, both financial and human, and those resources seem to be, of course, ever dwindling. We are really trying to focus the use of data and making sure our decisions are data driven. And the last bullet, particularly important this year, is we are trying to reduce staff through attrition where we can based on declining enrollment. So going off that attrition reduction, we're looking at 9 spots for faculty, for staff, 1 administrator. Starting with the faculty, LOAT, which is languages other than English. We have a retirement there that we're not going to fill. Important to note, and I'll probably say it a few times throughout this, that these reductions are all through attrition and there are no layoffs. So we're not filling that spot. The cut will be seen felt by both the middle school and the high school, about half each, FTE being a full-time equivalent. So basically it's a 1.0 or a 1 position. So we'll lose half the middle school, half the high school. Social studies is seeing a retirement at the high school. We're not replacing that person. So the high school is looking at a 1.0 reduction there. We're looking at a special education reduction based on enrollment and need at the elementary right now. That may change as we go through the process for reviews. There's always a chance that that's going to fluctuate, and where that spot ends up might be different. But right now we're projecting a decrease of need at the elementary. We also have 3 intervention specialists. They work at our 3 elementary schools. They really focus with our academic intervention services, or AIS, working with our most struggling learners. We have 1 at each building and working with those teachers. We're going to reduce that from 3 down to 2. So we have a reduction there as well. Math, we have a retirement. The person retiring is at the middle school in a classroom, but we're going to be able to not fill that by having the middle school and the high school, similar to LOAT, split the decrease half each. And we'll be moving an AIS math teacher into the classroom, into grade 8 math. And the high school will provide the middle school with 0.5 FTE to help out with those AIS, or again, academic intervention services that are needed for our most struggling learners down at the middle school in math. This one is kind of the most confusing, but I wanted to make sure we just kind of had it in there to try to avoid some confusion or explain it. In the original budget we showed the board, we had a teaching assistant position, actually was at the elementary level, and we were looking to add that based on enrollment and need, and we thought we'd try and ramp that up. However, after the pandemic and the financial impact of that ad has been taken out. So the net is really 0. There's no person ever in that role, but it's something we were projecting we were going to need, and then we're able to remove and do the finances. We're trying not to do any unnecessary hiring, so that was especially important to do. We do have 1 addition, and that's at Post and Kill. It's enrollment based. As you may recall, Post and Kill has 2 sections in 2 of the grade levels, and we're seeing enrollment come through. So we're going to have to add a teacher there. The intervention specialist reduction that I referred to earlier, we're going to use that person in this role. So instead of hiring someone, we're just going to transition the person over. So really it's the reduction intervention specialist is over as the person moves from that role into this one. In addition to faculty, we have some staff reductions. High school and the elementary school have 1.0 aid reductions. For example, high school 1 is the distance learning room. We have someone there now. We're eliminating the distance learning program. So that person will be used in a different role, really basically to fill in for someone who's retiring, because some of the retirements we do need to replace. So that's just an example of how we're kind of reallocating resources. 2 other staff reductions on this slide. Clerical is our CSE, or Committee of Special Education office. and benefits coordinator. That's in our HR office. Both of those are very similar in that we have people retiring, and instead of filling them, we're going to use the current staff that we have to do the jobs that were being done. The work isn't going away. We're just asking people to take on more, and we're fortunate that our staff is certainly willing to do that. So we'll be able to reduce by 2 positions, and we think still be able to get the work done that has to be done as we just kind of look to work more efficiently and spread duties out. As you're aware, we have 2 administrators who have resigned. One has already left us. One will be leaving shortly for great opportunities, and we're sad to see them both go. We've had a lot of restructuring as a result of that, as people have moved. As you know, Josh Gallo has gone from the middle school to Post and Kill, and Brian Road is now down at Algonquin. And so we have these 2 spots, the assistant director for special education and student services and the director of PD and independent evaluator. We're going to combine those 2 spots into one. It would be a full-time position, director of teacher and student supports. And again, looking to do the same amount of work essentially with less people as we try to get leaner. You see here a savings of about $5,000, and I think this is important because we really are looking at every dollar we're spending as we try to make sure we're using the resources we have effectively and being good stewards of the taxpayers' money. This teacher aide position, or currently a substitute service, is done by a teacher aide, and we're going to move it to an automated service. And we've looked around at other districts that are doing this already. We're very comfortable and confident that we can do it. We'll transition our staff to this, our administrators to this service. The savings is about $5,000. And again, no one's getting laid off. This is just a person who will be used in a different capacity within the district. In this case, filling a spot that's vacant because of a retirement, most likely. A couple other additions. We've talked a little bit about our technology budget for grades 6 through 12. Those classes are very well subscribed, and we needed to kind of make those numbers match up more with what that's actually costing us to run the program, to run it effectively. And as you know, we merged for hockey last year. That was obviously for boys and primarily. We did the survey. Mark did it for our students to gauge student interest at the time, because we're concerned about making sure that we are Title IX compliant and that we're also offering opportunities for our students. And the number 1 winner there was girls swimming. At the time, we kind of said, oh boy, we don't have a pool and we're not looking to build one. So we weren't sure where that was going to take us. But we've been very fortunate that Troy High is looking to merge and has expressed an interest. And Mark and the athletic director there have been in contact, and we now have an agreement there. So for $2,500, we'll be able to provide our girls who are interested with the opportunity to swim. So we're very happy about that. And it also helps us from a Title IX compliance point of view. It's a step in the right direction. 2 other budgetary additions, food service, and we've talked about that. That program is mandated to be self-sustaining, harder and harder to do. Not easy to do in the first place, harder and harder to do now, namely because the minimum wage increase, which affects those employees, and the anti-shaming policy, which affects our ability to collect funds. These 2 bullets that you see there are not unique to Averill Park. Certainly issues that are facing all food service programs. And to keep that flat, we're transferring money in now instead of just letting that accumulate. The one-to-one initiative is currently in grades 6 through 9. Quite honestly, we were looking to roll it to 610 originally and go up a grade each year. Before the pandemic, we were looking to do grades 6 through 12 because we thought it'd be most effective for the high school to be all in. I think if we've learned anything through online and remote learning, starting this initiative when we did was good timing, and the need to roll it up next year, especially given how uncertain things are, is critically important. The next few slides talk about our standard bus proposition. The district has worked hard and long to get on a long-term replacement plan, and we are there. So we're going to be purchasing 8 buses in an effort to continue with that. You can see the breakdown there, the number of buses and the size of those buses. In sum, the total cost is not to exceed $695,750. And as always, important to note that the district receives approximately 71% state aid on those purchases. So as a benefit to our local taxpayer, that 71% of the bill is being picked up by the state. As always, part of that replacement plan is to trade in buses where we can. And you can see the 8 buses there, totaling about $14,500 in value. And there's the breakdown. We've talked a lot about the geographic size of our district and the number of miles our buses cover. So those miles obviously add up quickly, and you can see the significant mileage on those buses. And then just finally, a reminder about the vote itself, the absentee ballot requirement that's been mandated by the governor. They need to be received here by us by 5 o'clock on June 9th. Our ballots are out, our newsletter is out. So hopefully people have received and are receiving those. We've been saying to people, we're saying to people, if you didn't receive it by May 28th, to contact Yvonne, and her email's there. So anyone who's listening to this now or in the recording, we encourage you to certainly reach out to Yvonne if you've not received a ballot. We have made an attempt to mail one to all of our voters. We felt very strongly that we needed to get one in everyone's hands, and that's what we've tried to do. But of course, it's not an exact science, so there's the possibility that someone was missed. So we encourage people to let us know if we somehow missed you, and we will get you one. That's the end of the budget hearing presentation. And if there's any questions. All right. Well, I guess, Jesse, if there's no questions, then we'll end the budget hearing and start the board meeting, which will continue streaming through this link. And people are certainly welcome to stay on or hop off.
Great, thank you so much. Do we need to take a minute? Or are we all set to just continue to move forward? Okay, so if people want to start their video, that's helpful for me to see people's hands, or they were interested in speaking at all during the meeting. So we will start then with the welcome to the Board of Education meeting on the 1st of June, 2020. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone can stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
nation,
and to the republic
under
for
God,
which it stands,
indivisible,
one
with
nation,
liberty and justice
under
for
God,
all.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to the superintendent's report, please.
So what we're going to try and do here, because I was with the Kiwanis group before.
Okay, good.
Since I was presenting to Kiwanis before, I think Matt's got all the documents except for my report ready to share. So I will share my report, and then we'll switch over to his sharing of the screen after. All right. So for our Board of Education report, we'll start off with summer camps. As you know, due to health and safety concerns, the governor has informed us that Our summer school is no longer going to take place in person. It'll be remote this year. So we've been in contact with our insurance carrier regarding summer camps. And based on those concerns of health and safety and directive from the governor, our insurance carrier is not recommending that we host the summer camps. So, we're letting the board know that we've decided that we're not going to do that. It's obviously a very difficult decision for us. We pride ourselves, I think, in making our campus and our facility open to our residents and especially to our students, obviously. A safe place for our kids to go, safe place for parents to send their kids. And these are groups that we've worked well with and appreciate the relationship we have. But it just at this point does not seem to be the way to go for us. There is a really good chance that the governor is going to eliminate this option anyway at some point during this month. But those are the 3 camps that had reached out: the town of Sand Lake, the town of Post and Kill, and the ARC. Sand Lake had canceled on their own, and we've been in touch with Post and Kill and the ARC regarding our decision. Childcare, I'm just gonna shut this window. Sorry about that. Our childcare situation, the governor has also announced that we're required to have a childcare program for our students. So as a result, we've been in contact with GCC, and they are going to continue to operate throughout the summer at West Sand Lake. However, we are no longer going to pay for the program. So instead, as of June 29th, which is that last Monday of the month, families will pay to utilize the program. In addition, our nurses who have been there through June 19th are not going to provide the nursing coverage as their school year ends on the 19th. In terms of enrollment, we are projecting an increase as the state starts to reopen. So GCC is going to be our primary care option down there at West Sand Lake. Right now, enrollment has been at or below 10 up until this week. They're projecting an enrollment of between 16 and 20. So if there are more than 10 in the program, we'll open up a second room. There was more than 10 today, we had a second room. So we'll continue monitoring that and making sure we're following guidelines and doing what needs to be done there. Reopening of school. We've spent some time on this one. Really what we have decided that we were going to kind of wait until June. We've been focusing our efforts on the school year that we're currently in, as it's ever changing, and we're doing things that we've never done before, from graduations to collecting, computers and library books and distributing medications and all these things that we usually do in our processes for. We've really had to spend time figuring out the best ways to do that. So we have been focusing on that. As the calendar turned, as I said, we started to focus more here on the reopening in June. And the other thing is we really don't have any clear guidance at this point. We started this task force. It's going to have 5 committees. You can see them there. It's teaching and learning, social emotional needs, finance and operations, staff and student health, and staff culture and well-being. Those 5 committees will be chaired by cabinet member Michael, Matt, or Kim, and they each have an administrator who's assigned to them who'll serve as a facilitator. We have developed a structure because we think it'll enable us to get some really good participation from many people as possible. In fact, we put out a survey explaining this and asking our employees to sign up if they were interested. As of the last time I checked, we had over 100 people sign up to be on these committees, completely voluntary. And we told them it will go through June and most likely July and August into the fall. So just really encouraged by, once again, the staff stepping up and wanting to be part of the solution and being willing to hop on something like this, which is obviously extra work and not required and no compensation. But I think people just feel very passionately about wanting to do what's best for our kids and make it work. So we're excited about that. We're very much in the infancy stages of this. it is, again, really important to note that we just don't have any guidance from the state at this point. We're looking for some in June. We've been told we have to submit a plan in July. I'm assuming that'll all take place and we'll be able to have, need to meet those deadlines. But right now our goal is to just get a committees together, get a task force together, get a structure together. We shared some articles, or we'll be sharing some articles that we're going to be reading about what's going on around us, from CDC guidelines to documents from BOCES to other things that we've seen from different states, to try and get people just thinking in general terms, how does this affect my area, my department, and my classroom, and really start thinking through it. And then, you know, I feel like we'll be able to hit the ground running once we actually have some definitive guidance. The tenure candidates will be given to you on Friday. On the 15th, we'll have that vote. We wanted to get that to you in advance so you have a chance to look through them. But we do plan to have the recommended action to grant tenure to tenure candidates on the 15th. We wanted to give you some updates regarding end of year celebrations. The elementary schools are all very busy planning their reverse parades. They're all going to do a reverse parade of some kind, as is Algonquin. Really kind of focused on how to recognize our 5th graders and our 8th graders, because we understand the seniors are not the only transition, not the only group that's leaving us. Obviously, the culminating and there are crowning achievement of seniors as they move through to beyond the walls of the high school. But we wanted to make sure we were taking care of our students at the elementary, the middle school level. Algonquin's reverse parade is kind of set the most, I think, right now in terms of how they're going to run through the parking lot. AMS staff will be there. They have a date and a time. And as I said, the elementaries are all doing their own work separately to come up with plans that work for them. Getting to our seniors, as I said, we want to make sure we're taking care of them, that they are not feeling forgotten or left out during this time. Our high school administration team has been working extremely hard to make this a positive time for them, as positive as it can be. These are just the things that we've been doing. A lot of social media recognition. Hopefully you've had a chance to see some of those in those postings that have been out. Slides for each senior and how that's going to go. Slides we put in social media. And, you know, we're making sure in that case that if a student doesn't have someone who sends something in for them, our student support services team is going to create slides for them. We want to make sure that everyone is part of it. The Adopt a Senior program, which really cool activity we're doing there, where we're dropping off items and they're creating packages for each senior. And it's kind of an exciting out of the box way to recognize kids. And I think that's great. High school also planning a reverse parade, and their date and time is set. And that one's actually going to be for all K-12 faculty and staff. As you can see there, Line Gettle Road. And once again, the relationship we have with our partner organizations, the foundation, Kiwanis, Nopiates, is just unbelievable. I mean, even just now, just on the Kiwanis call right before this, if anything you need, let us know. They're concerned about food for the summer. They're concerned, you know, just everyone really wanting to help and do what they can. And those 3 groups in particular have just always been fantastic. So we thank them, as well as the Rensselaer County Sheriff's Office. Graduation is currently set 9 o'clock on June 27th at the Jericho Drive-In. Those plans we are still making and firming up. Different versions and variations within that celebration, but we will be ready. And we've been in contact with Albany County Department of Health, with our attorney, with our insurance agent, trying to make sure we cross all the T's and dot all the I's and make this the best we possibly can, and that we are thinking through every scenario and situation. So, all right, that is the end of
Dr. Franchini.
Yeah.
That especially because I'm also on student council, working with the administration has been really great just to see how much effort they're putting in. So I would just like to thank them right now for truly doing everything they can, especially hearing what some of these other schools are doing their best to come up with. Our administration is definitely going the extra miles for all of us. And I think I can speak for the entire senior class when I say that we are overappreciate, like we're over the moon, I guess, about what we're able to do, especially hearing what some of the bigger school districts are having to deal with. So thank you very much to our administration.
Oh, thank you, Hannah. That's great to hear. Thank you very much. They've been putting in a tremendous amount of work, and it's been the whole high school faculty and administration. And I know they've been spending hours and hours thinking through these things. So appreciate you noticing. Really just glad that it's coming across, because it's very genuine, the conversations you have with them. It's not about just checking it off a list. It's really about trying to do this the right way for kids. So that's good. Glad that's coming through.
Yes, definitely is.
All right. That's the report piece. The next would be the successes and highlights, the video from Brian. Matt, do you have that up?
I have it up, but you need to make me the host now so I can share my screen.
All right.
New little wrinkle in these meetings.
All right, let's see here. I've stopped sharing. So that's, some people say I've stopped sharing a long time ago, not just now, but that's all right. How do I?
Do you have like a participants thing on the bottom? You
Oh,
click
there
that,
we go. All right.
and then you should see me on the top. That just the one that doesn't have co-host with it.
All right.
There
You
go.
should be good.
Okay. And you're seeing the screen okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Can you enlarge it? There you go.
What's up, AP? This is Rudy Winkler, class of 2013. Just sending you along a message saying best of luck in these last couple weeks leading up to the summertime. I know these are kind of crazy times right now with Regents exams and AP exams and all sorts of different things going on. And given the current circumstances, a lot crazier than usual. So keep working hard, stay dedicated, and finish off the year strong. It's really important that you do so. To all my seniors out there, I know this wasn't really how you pictured your senior year ending. But you know, some of my favorite memories from high school were simple things like hanging out with my friends in the lunchroom or goofing around in the hallway between classes, or even just hanging out at football games under the lights at Able Park's home field. And I know a lot of you already have those type of memories built up, and the things that will stay with you for the rest of your life and you'll cherish for the rest of your life. You're also in the prime of your lives right now. A lot of you are probably going to college or even just going directly into work right after high school. No matter what you're doing, the best memories of your entire lives are yet to come, and you still have a lot to look forward to. So again, keep working hard, stay dedicated, and finish strong.
All right. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. That brings us to lots of good information as always. Even though we're not in the buildings, we still continue to work really hard, and we really appreciate that. Item number 3 is there'll be no public or visitor comments due to the virtually conducted meeting. And that brings us to the consent agenda, item number 4. Do I have a motion?
Chris.
Megan.
Chris, seconded by Megan. That's the way I heard it. Thank you. Any comments, questions?
I would like to,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that the loss of a student, especially a 9th grade student, at such a young age, is tragic, and I'm sure the entire community is feeling that, and I want to recognize the scholarship, the future scholarship, on behalf of Sarah Hitchcock, and send my condolences to her family and everyone who's affected by this tragic loss.
Absolutely. It's a great way to honor her, but such a hard thing to do in the midst of it all. So we certainly appreciate that scholarship, and our best to the family. We hope that they're doing okay. Anyone else have any comments? I just wanted to acknowledge the donation from the Education Foundation for the invention kits for Algonquin. So thank you to them for that. Hearing no further comments, just want to make sure. Okay, we'll call it to the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, it's opposed. Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. Brings us to item number 5, to approve the appointment of the inspectors of election to conduct the budget, bus purchase propositions, and the school board member vote on June 9th, 2020, as per the list provided. Do I have a motion?
Anne.
Megan.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Megan. Second. Any questions, comments? Okay, I'll call it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. I think that was unanimous. Item number 6, to approve the appointment of Yvonne Phillips as Chief Inspector of Elections and conduct the budget, purchase propositions, and school board member vote on June 9th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
Chris.
Megan?
Jenny.
Samantha, are you raising your hand?
I am, yeah.
Okay, Samantha and Jenny.
Slow and-
Jenny is who I heard. Any questions, comments, discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. I think that passed unanimously also. Okay, on to item number 7, approve the memorandum of understanding on high school interventions between the Averill Park Central School District and the Averill Park Teachers Association. Do I have a motion?
Megan?
Ann.
Megan and Ann, seconds. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Sounds good. Passes unanimously. Thank you. On to item 8, a resolution of the Board of Education of the Averill Park Central School District and the State of New York for the purposes of entering into a contract for cooperative educational services. Do I have a motion?
Peter.
Jenny.
Chris.
Thank you, Peter. Jenny, thank you. Seconded. Discussion. Okay, hearing none. We'll call it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Sounds unanimous. Thank you. It passes. On to item number 9, approve to adopt the Averill Park Central School District response to intervention plan for the 2020-2021 school year.
Megan?
Do I have a motion? Thank you, Megan.
Jenny.
Chris, thank you. Okay, any discussion?
Jesse. I just wanted to say
Okay.
that
Yes.
I wanted to thank Kara Harrington for her presentation at our last meeting. It was very informative and very detailed, as was the report. As I was looking through it, and the plans, they're extremely detailed, and it just goes to show how important this program is and how effective it can be. So I wanted to thank Kara for explaining everything to us at our last meeting, and it was very informative.
I agree. It was very informative, and we do appreciate that, her efforts to explain it all. So yes, I agree. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? I think I heard everybody, but I'm not quite sure. Okay, so it passed unanimously. Thank you. It's on to item number 10, the presentation of the CASDA Special Education Program and Services Review. Is that you, Jim, or is that going to be Matt?
Yeah, I'll start off
Okay.
and hand over to Matt. So as you know, we engaged CASDA in this study just to get some outside expertise and knowledge on the program. It's obviously a major component of what we do educationally. It's a major component of what we do financially. So we haven't had a review of any kind in a long time. And we asked CASDA to come in, and they did a great job, and really want to thank the two people who did it, Tony Albanese and Colleen Yelrich, for a really great report. And you're going to be getting a hard copy of that. They have not been received yet, but once we do, we'll get them to you. And we thought we'd have Matt kind of walk you through the recommendations and findings, and just to do a summary for you. So I'll turn it over to him.
Okay, thanks, Jim. The challenge here, as you'll see when you get your hard copy, the challenge is it's roughly a 35-page document that we're going to try to boil down into about a dozen slides. So these slides are admittedly text heavy, but they do kind of wrap up the key points that the report covers. So that's how these slides are broken down. So what it really looks like from our standpoint is, what did we ask for first? What did we find out? And where do we go next? That's kind of how this is broken out. As Jim said, we were really fortunate to have the expertise of two individuals that have spent probably collectively over 50 years in special education, providing us this insight. So what did we ask for? We looked for CASDA to look at our district data regarding special education students, to see, are we on the right track in terms of our classification rate, our graduation rate, how our special ed population does on state assessments, longitudinally, how we're doing, how do those same kids do year to year? We wanted to see how our structure lined up. Do we have the right people in the right places, the right roles, supervisory, administratively, right down to, aides that are supporting in the classroom. We wanted to look at how we are using our staff resources and allocating it with, particularly now with limited resources, making sure we have the right people in the right places, that we're not oversubscribed or undersubscribed throughout the district. Wanted to look at the types of services we're delivering. Are we meeting the needs of our special education students with the programs that we currently offer, knowing that we can't offer everything? Also, we asked them to dig into our RTI process, our supports and procedures. The plan that you just approved is really the culmination of that. The study was actually done after the work was being done. So a lot of the things they found in RTI, we were really addressing through our plan that you just approved. We asked them to conduct focus group interviews to talk to our staff members to find out how they were feeling about our special education program and services, and then finally to give us a written report. What Tony and Colleen did, they spent 2.5 days here. And in that 2.5 days, they were very busy. They conducted 53 interviews with faculty and administration, including our service providers, our teachers, our principals, Jim and myself, obviously Kate and Kara, meeting throughout the day. And in addition, they were looking at all of our documentation. How are we using our IEPs? They actually pulled out sample IEPs to take a look at how we were writing those up. They looked at staff schedules, caseloads, reports, procedures, guidelines, any kind of documentation that we could give them. They conducted those focus group interviews, and in their spare time, they also visited special education classrooms and programs at all buildings. What they heard back, so this is district reported strengths, so not what they observed, but actually what they heard back from focus group interviews were these strengths. The staff really believes that there is they really believe in our students, and they are really devoted to meeting the needs of those students, and are always looking to develop and improve the processes and procedures and services. It's very clear we don't have all of those things in place now, but there's a desire from everyone they talk to say, we need this. We want to make sure this happens. So definitely a buy-in from our staff to make sure we're doing things the right way. The district has got a very dedicated, hardworking, caring faculty, and we've seen that through the closure, how much that department has shined to make sure that they've stayed in touch with the students and families, trying every means possible to reach out to students and provide the services that they were so accustomed to doing while we were in school. The special ed teachers and service providers work really well collaboratively. We have a team structure, making sure that we can get to all of our students' needs, not missing anything in the IEP whenever possible. This is the document they're driven by. So they work very, very hard with each other and also with the classroom teachers to make sure we're meeting those needs. And as we just discussed, we've really worked hard, and Kara deserves a whole heap of praise to get a more systematic and formalized response intervention program, particularly at K-5 this year. We were in a great place with 6-8 through the TAC grant. The K-5 has really been solidified. And now with the RTI plan and the work that Heath has done with Kara in the high school, we have a really solid now K-12 approach to RTI. The concerns, again, these are the concerns that they heard about, not that they observed. What they heard from staff is that we need to, we need a better plan for how we're going to address current best practices. You know, what happens a lot of times, you've done things a certain way for such a long time, it gets very comfortable and you sometimes lose sight of what else is out there. So there's an encouragement from our staff to see what else can we be doing to make sure we're meeting the needs of our students. And included in that is trying our best to provide a least restrictive environment for our students. We want to get them in a general education population whenever possible. So we need the services to allow that to happen. And that's an area that we know we need to improve in and have already started. Our annual review meetings, which are required for all of our students with disabilities, have been conducted over the last few months, and we are starting to shift that model slightly to get our students into a more general ed population, a greater percentage of their day. So it's been a push, and it was certainly recognized in the study. We need PD, not just professional development for our special education staff, but also for our general education staff, understanding differentiation, that when you have a student with disabilities in your classroom, the work may look different, and how to develop that work to meet their needs. That takes a lot of work, a lot of training, and we need to do a better job of that. And lastly, we need to address challenges and meet the needs of students with social, emotional, behavioral needs. And we know that that's a concern, not just at Averill Park, but all throughout the country, of students coming to school with more issues that have to be addressed. So we need to keep working to make sure we're meeting the needs of our students here. What they found in terms of data, they used a combination of different sources to review their data, the New York State report cards, as well as a special ed district data profile, which is something the state produces for us as well. For the data review, our classification rate has continued to grow as our enrollment has declined. We are, as of our last data profile, which was 2017-18, our classification rate was 17%, which means 17% of all of our students in Averill Park K-12 are classified as having a disability. This current year, we're projected to be a little bit above 18.4%. So we've even gone up higher. The statewide average is roughly 15.3%. So we are seeing a higher population of students with greater needs. We are moving in the right direction regarding our placements. That least restrictive environment that I talked about on the last slide is something that we've strived hard to reduce or to move towards, to get more kids into a least restrictive environment. So just 5 years ago, we had over 10% of our students were being outplaced. That number is down to 5.7%. So we're keeping more kids in the district. In addition, our participation in Gen Ed more than 80% of the day. So a student with a disability spending more than 80% of their day in a general ed classroom has increased from 39.9% in 15-16 to 50.1%. We're still below where that state target wants us to be, which is almost 60%, but obviously we're trending in the right direction. So that was nice to see. CASDA then provided in the last part of their report recommendations in various categories. In terms of staffing, they recommended no need for additional staff, but instead we really need to examine and allocate our staff based on where the greater need is. That just because we had a certain number of teachers in one building this past year, we may not do that next year because the students move, the needs move in and out as kids progress from the elementary to middle to high school. New enrollments can change things. So we have to be a little more flexible where we're placing our resources. And we also have to look at not just our teachers, but our aides. There was a strong feeling from CASA that we had plenty of aides that we just needed to put them in the right places. And so that's something that we are going to look harder at as we, again, getting into review season and think about next year, placing, more aides in the right places. Regarding our program and services, this is probably the area that we were most aware was going to show up in the report, and that's that we don't always provide the best, least restrictive environment for our students. We rely on a lot of what's called special class, which is 15 students with one teacher. So instead of a student staying in their regular classroom, they would take ELA or math in a special class. And what they're encouraging us to do is to look to have more of a co-teach consultant model, where we would be placing that special ed teacher in the regular ed classroom, and he or she would co-teach with that regular ed teacher ELA or math, allowing those students to stay in that class. We have a lot of special class throughout the district, so it's a case of trying to reduce that amount and allowing those students to stay in the general education classroom. Additionally, we do have a 15-1 special class at the middle school, and they continue to encourage us to use that at reading literacy. They saw that to be very effective. And then again, trying to increase the use of co-teaching, the co-teaching model throughout the district. That's going to come with it a lot of need for professional development, but we should be trying to plan for that as we go forward. Procedurally, there is some work to be done, and that's just really documentation, getting things written down. We need to develop a special ed handbook that really just outlines our processes and procedures. I should point out on the last slide is another piece of documentation I didn't point out in the first bullet, which is a continuum of services that essentially describes on paper why a student would receive special class versus a co-teacher versus a behavioral class. We don't have those guidelines written down. It is actually already been developed in draft format. So we have moved in the right direction since the report. So that's one piece of the documentation. And then on this slide, additionally, there's a need for a special ed handbook, a paraprofessional handbook. So it helps to identify the roles and responsibility of our teacher aides and teaching assistants. We need clearly written entry and exit criteria for our other services like speech, OT, occupational therapy, PT, physical therapy, vision, hearing, and counseling services. That's shared. We want to be transparent so that all members of our special ed community have access to this documentation. We need to make sure we're prioritizing our scheduling. Oftentimes it gets tricky scheduling special ed because of the services and the needs. And if you don't put them first, it can limit what your availability and flexibility is with your other, with your special ed staff. So we have already started this for next year. Kate is involved right up front with the scheduling process and all levels, K-12. And that's going to be a really important process to make sure that we're dealing with our special ed population first, so that if they require 90 minutes of ELA support, we can get that 90 minutes written in right up front. We're not trying to fit it in after a giant master schedule has already been done for the whole building. And then lastly, in terms of procedurally, we want a greater exposure on our district website, some more information about the types of programs and support services that we offer here. Regarding teaching and learning, there is a great need, as we saw from one of our concerns, to enhance our RTIB. That's in terms of response intervention with behavioral issues, not just academic, which is what we're used to seeing with RTI. There's also a whole RTI continuum regarding behavioral. So we want to combine our RTI team with our counseling and mental health team to make sure we're doing a better job of supporting our behavioral students throughout both the general ed classroom and as it moves through the continuum into intervention supports outside of the room. Keep refining and implementing that great plan that you just approved. We feel very strongly that we're going in a much better direction with RTI K-12. So it's just making sure we keep focusing on that. And then professional development all over the place. Again, getting people to understand the roles and responsibilities of what a co-teacher is, a consultant teacher, resource room. And that's not just special ed staff, that's general education as well. They need to understand what a student in their classroom can and can't do, what their role is versus the special ed professional. Just making sure we work with all of our staff to get a much greater understanding of that. Also, how we can use data to put kids in the right groups and the interventions we can deliver, collaborative teaching models, differentiation, modifying assignments, all extremely important. And we do it currently, but we can do better. And I think professional development will be the key to improving that. And then lastly, the last recommendation they made was regarding fiscal. We need to look at, again, staffing patterns and programs to make sure that we have the right people in the right places, as we mentioned before. We also want to look at how we can utilize grant funding. Professional development comes at a cost, and it's not something that schools typically budget a lot for. And we do receive grant funding every year for our special education department. So that might be an avenue that we can tap to find ways to support the professional development of special education throughout the district. We also may look at using, summertime and during school hours. So there will be some resources we'd have to devote for that. So this grant might be a way, if we can realign that going forward, we might be able to utilize some funding there. And that is the report boiled down from 35 pages to about 10 slides. Any questions?
Well, I wanted to start out by thanking you for already being on top of implementing some of the measures and the recommendations from the report. So thank you for being on top of that. Megan, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, do we have a plan in place to track the success data? I imagine that we were tracking the data based on the way we're currently doing it. So do we have some way of measuring, for the changes that we've implemented to go back and see if those changes were in fact successful?
In terms of academic performance or classification, which
in terms of overall improvement of the students receiving services, because they all have milestones that they're looking to achieve. So, sorry, there's a cat there. They all have milestones that are part of their CSE program. So I would imagine that we're looking to see, how many of the students are hitting those milestones and at what rate they're doing so. So my question is based on the information that they gave for the changes, both in a behavioral, and I'm curious too, is the 15-to-1 teacher versus the the more time that you spend in a mainstream classroom. Are we going to be tracking the success of the students with those changes?
Yeah, I think, as a general statement, Megan, we absolutely will be, we're going to do more tracking of data, in terms of student performance across the district anyways. That's a system that we're working to develop. And in that, we can disaggregate that out by our special ed population so we can get a better feel for that. I think as we think about this model of moving to a co-teaching model from a special class, I think we're going to be even more sensitive to looking at that to make sure that those students are successful. And I'm certain the special ed teachers are going to be very much in tune to that. There's some, quite frankly, that are a little nervous about that. We've had the special class model for quite some time. It's become a big part of our culture here. So there's some that are a little reluctant to let those students go and into a general ed classroom. So I think we will certainly be watching that, as they will be as well, to make sure that we're not losing kids. But it is the idea of looking at that disaggregated data is something that we are absolutely going to increase our use of over the coming year to 2 years.
Thank you.
Right.
Anyone else?
It looks like Samantha raised her hand. So it's Samantha.
I was like, I couldn't find my raised hand, my official raised hand thing.
I think it's the first time you raised anyone's raised a hand at a board meeting. That's nice.
Oh, so I'm on another board. like hands up. And SUNY, everyone's, the professors are really good about that. Chaos otherwise. So the only thing I was gonna, and forgive me if I'm sort of stating the obvious, which I feel like it's very likely you've already looked at it this way, but I'm sort of Captain Obvious sometimes because I'd rather have it said. But nice job kind of consolidating that information. That was a lot. I appreciate it. It was delivered in a way that makes sense. But that was also a lot. Like, it sounds like there's a lot that you know, there's core things to focus on. But do you guys have like tiers of like a punch list, like a prioritized, and so then expectations can be managed appropriately. So it's like, you know, teachers aren't going in expecting there to be a wholesale shift.
Yeah.
It can sort of like attack it at a time. You know, obviously all the professional development isn't going to be able to happen tomorrow. So
Right.
do you guys have like a priority of we're going to go in with this first and then?
Yeah, actually, as part of the report, CASA did provide some immediate next steps, which we were kind of forming some special ed task force, if you will, to tackle some of the low-hanging fruit, some of the documentation procedural stuff. We know that we can't just jump into a co-teaching model without putting professional development in front of it. So that's obviously going to be a tiered approach as well. As we want to change these services, we know we need to get the training first. So that's also going to be kind of staged. You won't see it all unfolding at once. So they did a nice job of not only providing recommendations, but kind of giving us some concrete places where to start so that we could attack this more systematically.
That makes me, I'm impressed already by them, but that's like an extra, because having that punch list is, I think if you give me a gigantic report and there's like all this stuff, but you don't sort of say, here's the next step and get this going while you work on this, then it's like, well, thanks for that gigantic data drop.
Yeah.
I'll see you in 6 months when I come out of the cave.
No, I can't reiterate enough what Jim said, that the two people we had to work with us were just so professional, fantastic and experienced. And we've used them since the report came out. We have touched base with them on a couple other things, and they continue to provide us with great insight. So we were very fortunate to get two outstanding professionals that work with CASA to give us this report.
I just have one additional question for because you're moving from the 15-to-1 model to the co-teaching environment. Did they provide suggestions or a list of, like, you know, troubleshooting and things for the students who don't handle that structure well? Because you had said that some of the special ed teachers had actually expressed concern that some of the students would not thrive well in that environment. Is there, because you're transitioning to that new program, are there mechanisms in place to address the kids so you don't see regression, you don't see an adverse response in the students that struggle with that?
So I guess I first want to point out that what they're saying is we need to move more kids out of that service won't go away. We just may not have as much of it. We have a lot of it across all of our elementaries. It might be consolidated into one building, so that it will still be offered as a service. But right now, you're pretty much either a special class or you're in a general classroom. We didn't have that in between least restricted environment. We had a few places where we have a consultant teacher, which is like the co-teaching model. So it's really just trying to beef that up to give kids someplace to go if they are, you know, if the special class is more than they need. We needed that middle ground. So they still will have that. And again, I think with any special ed service, you're constantly monitoring. You don't have to wait for that annual review meeting. Call a review meeting if you feel like something's not working. And we certainly would be open to putting a kid in the special class. We're just trying to have less of a reliance on it overall. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. That was helpful. One last call for questions, comments. It certainly was a lot, and you did digest it well into those few slides. Okay. All right. So I think that brings us to item number 11, board member reports. Hannah, would you like to start?
Sure. Is this like the last board meeting, or do we have one more for the year?
We have one more.
Okay.
One
I
more.
was like, wait a minute, is this my last board member report? I wasn't prepared for that.
One more.
All right. Is that one on the 15th? Yeah. Okay. Well, I
On the
already
15th.
kind of touched on this earlier, but just again to thank the administration, the staff, the community with the Adopted Senior program, just seeing how much of a group effort that this has been amongst everybody to make this year as well, the end of this year as well as it can be for the seniors in a lot of ways is, I think, more special than what it would have been if it was a normal year. Not that I'm saying I would prefer this situation, but there have definitely been quite a few moments in this and quite a few moments to come that I think will definitely serve as really, really good memories looking back on this, not very fun situation. And in terms of other things, I guess nothing really else to touch on except vote.
So true. Get out there and vote. Samantha, would you like to go next?
Sure. I actually was for voting. I might. Do I get the award for being the furthest away? Because we're going to drive back probably this week from Boston, grab all the mail, do the voting, get it in before we come back with my dad. So I want to thank you guys. I know everybody in the district has been coming together, and we've been kind of watching at arm's length here from Boston, Newton. But you guys, I appreciate, because I know that I have not been real present for all this, and you guys, I appreciate having such an awesome group of people, so that when I sort of like skim the reading, like undergraduate level fast, and miss probably 60% of it, you guys are picking up the slack. So I really do appreciate it so much. And, maybe we'll see you guys again sometime. Maybe we'll, I don't know if we'll be back for all this reverse parades. We may try and make one or the other. And, but it's great to see from afar that somebody has it together. Again, I'm just going to say it again, just the post and kill elementary teachers are, we're doing what we can, and they've dealt with so much, and I appreciate it so much. So that's all. Thanks to everybody else who's not me. You guys rock.
Thank you, Samantha. Megan?
Thanks, Jesse. I would like to.
Megan, oh, okay, there you go.
Oh, there I am. I would like to congratulate all of the underclassmen for the underclassmen awards. That was fun to watch on YouTube, to see all of the achievements for all of the students, grades 9 through 11, and what they're doing. I'd like to, and I'll say this again probably on the 15th, but I'd like to congratulate the seniors for continuing to really stick it out and do their best, and hearing all kinds of good things. I really appreciate all of the hard work of our elementary ed teachers. Our elementary school teachers at West Sand Lake are phenomenal. And especially the special education teachers who are really going above and beyond. I can't say enough about them with the adjustment to the current environment. I would like to implore everyone to please file your absentee ballots, get those votes in. We don't know we're doing this right if you don't vote, so please vote, and give us your feedback. That's how you tell us that you like what we're doing or not. So we act based on that. I also I had other things I wanted to say, and now they're just right out of my mind. But want to say a big thank you to everyone as well, because we've also had some things going on, and I've been, you know, in and out, and wishing the candidates for the board luck, however the chips fall. And, you know, I hope I get to keep working with you, but if not, it's been a pleasure just in case. And hopefully all goes well. And thank you to everyone who's stepping up in the community and doing, you know, coming together for each other. I hope that everyone in Averill Park knows that regardless of race or gender or sexual orientation or anything, that we all come together as a family community, and we all love everyone here. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Anne?
Wow, that's a tough act to follow. Guys have been making some really great lemonade lately. I want to congratulate our own Hannah Ryan on being selected for the graduation speaker. Sophia just heard me say that.
Thank you.
And I just want to also, you know, it's already been said, but remember to educate yourself on the budget. Read the bulletin, read the newsletter, and carefully read the absentee ballot information, especially if you're not used to doing that. It's important that you sign it, like Jim said. So I just want to make sure that everybody gets their vote in on time. And I think that was all. I just wanted to congratulate Hannah. And of course, Carly too, but we know you, Hannah. So
She's one of my best friends. We're very excited.
She's a great girl. You can tell in all the things that she's in, and her personality just shines right through. So you can see she was also a really great choice. So thank you.
We'll be an interesting duo.
Oh yeah.
Laugh at my jokes, even if they're not all that funny.
Well, I'm used to that in this house. So good luck to you.
Thank you, Anne. Chris?
And anyone's stealing my thunder. But I'll echo what Ann/Sophia Maroney said by congratulating Hannah. I've known you for a long time. That's awesome. So congratulations. Let's see. Special Education Director position, had the pleasure of participating. So Kim, thanks for including me. We got some nice candidates, some real good folks. So believe that we'll be in good shape, and I trust that the committee will be able to narrow it down to a qualified person who can come in and assist us as a district. Looking forward to the parades, looking forward to the Adopt a Senior. Still have to get out there and get my gift cards. So I'll make sure to get that in good shape. Hearing that there's over 100 staff members who have said that they'd help with the school reopening is awesome. It's reassuring, and I think it's tremendously helpful for the administration to be able to have those folks who will continue to be on the front lines to get the information. So that's great. Hats off to Deputy Nichols. It was kind of cool to get the Sunday paper last week and all of a sudden see him at the top of it. Be like, hey, we know that fella. So yeah, and let's get folks out there to vote, please. I realize it's a different way of doing it, but it's important to be educated on it and to make sure to get those votes in. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Jenny?
I just really wanted to say that when I first was on the board, it was difficult sometimes for me to vote in support of the budgets. There was not even close to the level of transparency that there is now. And what I have been telling everybody, and I will tell all of you, is that I have absolutely complete faith in the people that developed this budget from top to bottom. Even the creative way of trying to deal with cuts that are coming in the future and just making things work and thinking out of the box and always keeping the students and the taxpayers at the front of your minds. You guys are the very best at what you do. The board is the best board I've ever worked with. And I'm really proud of this budget. And I'm looking forward to hopefully the community understanding the work and everything that's gone on by good people doing the right thing. And that it's very transparent. And it's also very obvious to anybody who'd look for half a second how hard everyone has worked on it. So you have my support, and I'm beating the streets literally in support of it. So that's all. And congratulations, Hannah. I thought tonight was the last meeting too, and I was not prepared at all. So I feel better knowing I get to do this one more time with you guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Jenny. Peter?
Hi. Sorry, I'm a little late in joining, but I heard the important parts. One thing to add, just a reminder to sign the back of your envelope before you send it in. Otherwise, it's not valid. Congratulations to the upcoming seniors. These are challenging times right now on many levels. And I would encourage students who are upset by what's going on or feel stressed to take advantage of the counseling services available through the school. It's not an easy time. I don't want to take away from the joy of graduating, though that's a landmark in your life. And I'm sorry that you haven't been able to participate fully in all the activities, but hang in there. Life is full of challenges, and there are plenty of people around to support you. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I don't really have anything more to add. I think all my colleagues said it all, and we appreciate that. I do just want to echo one thing, and that's a big thank you for all those district employees who continue to do your best work during these unprecedented times. That one was for you, Michael. I appreciate it all. And I think that will conclude our meeting unless anyone has anything else to say, add to this agenda. All right, so I will need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Megan.
Thank you, Megan. Who wants to second?
I will.
Thank you, Anne. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Everyone have a great week. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Continue to stay healthy.